Did you know that on certain islands, creatures often grow to gigantic proportions, like the famous Galapagos tortoises? Yet sometimes these very same animals shrink to the size of peanuts on other islands nearby. Have you ever heard of such a strange phenomenon before? Most of us haven't, but scientists have coined a term for this peculiar occurrence. They call it the island rule. It applies to various animals across the globe. It's not just animals either. Even plants follow suit. Like the iconic Rafflesia, the world's largest flower, growing to almost a meter in diameter, or the minuscule chameleon pine, so tiny it looks like a bonsai, despite being a full-grown tree. Do you find this intriguing? If so, keep watching. It seems like a cosmic joke. Imagine a place with more space for roaming around, seemingly plenty of food and fewer enemies compared to mainland habitats. Why then do many species shrink rather than expand? How does the reverse happen? The answer lies in the remarkable process called adaptation. As life forms evolve, they adapt to their surroundings. However, this process becomes even more evident when we talk about islands. In fact, islands are ideal settings for witnessing evolutionary changes, because generally speaking, islands are isolated from the rest of the world. They possess unique climates and limited living resources, different from those found on the mainland. This forces the organisms on the islands to adjust to their new conditions. Otherwise, they won't survive. As a result, over time, isolated populations on islands undergo significant changes. These changes are driven by various factors such as climate, resource availability, predation, and the absence of competitors. Natural selection plays a crucial role in shaping the characteristics of island species. Because of limited resources and a stable ecosystem, animals and plants don't need to change much. This explains why species found on islands often remain unchanged for long periods. What leads to the transformation of animal sizes? It's a fascinating question, and let's look at how it affects different species. There are two distinct phenomena associated with this: insular gigantism and insular dwarfism. To put it simply, animals grow bigger on islands if they are small in size on the mainland. Conversely, they shrink on islands if they are big on the mainland. But why does this happen? Let's start with insular gigantism. Imagine a small mouse living on the mainland. Life there is tough. It faces fierce competition with numerous predators on the prowl. But now picture this little mouse swimming to a nearby island where everything is much different. There's less competition, fewer predators, and an abundance of food. For our mouse, it's paradise. No longer needing to fear predators, the mouse can finally relax and enjoy its newfound freedom. And guess what happens next? It starts growing bigger. Over time, through reproduction, this trait gets passed down, eventually leading to the emergence of giant mice on the island. Or consider the Galapagos giant tortoise. These magnificent creatures are descendants of ancestral species that arrived in the Galapagos from the South American coast. Back then, the islands were volcanic wastelands, devoid of life. Only a few species managed to reach the barren shores, including land, iguanas, birds, and ancestral tortoises. But these early ancestors weren't the giants we see today. In fact, they were relatively small. It took millions of years for the Galapagos Islands to take shape and become the paradise we know today. Initially, the islands offered a shelter to seabirds, reptiles, and mammals. Over time, mammals disappeared due to various reasons, including lack of food. But reptiles thrived, especially the ancestral tortoises. The Galapagos Islands became a true sanctuary for them. Due to the absence of predators, competition, and a reliable food source, these tortoises experienced remarkable growth. Their shells grew thicker, their limbs stronger, enabling them to travel longer distances in search of food. These adaptations helped them survive and reproduce, ensuring the survival of their offspring. In the absence of predators, the tortoises had no natural enemies. This allowed them to grow larger without being wiped out by predators. Since they were essentially safe from being hunted, this safety likely contributed to their growth, allowing them to become giants. Now, let's discuss the opposite case, insular dwarfism. Take an African forest elephant. Standing tall and weighing up to 6 tons, it's a true giant. Now imagine a group of these elephants migrating to an island. At first they roam freely, but over time something remarkable happens. The island's resources are limited compared to the vast African plains. there isn't enough food for enormous elephants. So what did these elephants do? They begin to shrink, generation after generation, until one day, they become miniature elephants. Take, for example, the Mediterranean island of Malta. It was once part of Sicily until an earthquake separated it from the mainland. Today, Malta hosts pygmy subspecies of several species, including the dwarf elephant. In fact, fossil evidence suggests that dwarf elephants inhabited many Mediterranean islands, including Cyprus, Crete, and the Aegean Sea. Their average height ranged from 85 to 120 centimeters, and they weighed between 900 and 1,500 kilograms. Fossil bones indicate that these elephants died out around 8,000 years ago. Some scientists believe they went extinct due to overhunting by humans, while others think it was because of climate change. Interestingly, similar dwarf elephants are still found today in the forests of Central and South Africa. Another fascinating example is the pygmy hippopotamus. Hippopotamuses normally grow up to 4.5 meters in length and weigh around 1.5 tons. But pygmy hippos are much smaller, reaching a maximum length of 1.3 meters and weighing around 270 kilograms. They are currently found only in West Africa, specifically in the lower reaches of the Gambia River and its estuary. Pygmy hippos belong to the same family as the common hippopotamus, but they diverged from each other around 7 million years ago. Interestingly, the remains of a dwarf hippopotamus were discovered in Lake Turkana, Kenya, dating back 2 million years. The reason behind the shrinkage of hippos on islands remains uncertain, but it's believed to be related to environmental factors. Even horses aren't immune to this phenomenon. On the island of Sicily, an ancient subspecies of wild horse, known as the Sicilian horse, once roamed. Fossils suggest that around 4,000 years ago, this subspecies resembled modern Mediterranean wild horses, measuring about 1.2 meters tall at the shoulder. However, over time, the Sicilian horse gradually shrunk, with the smallest individual discovered in the middle of the island and dating back around 2,000 years. The horse fossils found near Agrigento are about half the size of their ancestors. Currently, no wild horses are found in Sicily. Those spotted there belong to domestic breeds owned by farmers who use them for farm work. One explanation for this shrinking could be limited food resources on the island. It's also possible that the Sicilian horse subspecies interbred with smaller wild horses from North Africa. These horses may have arrived via boats used by ancient sailors who settled on the island. Eventually, the Sicilian horse evolved into a smaller animal. You might wonder why the island rule doesn't apply to birds. It's because birds evolved differently. They didn't descend directly from ancestral species that lived on the islands. Instead, they evolved in two main lineages, one in the Americas and the other in the Old World. Regardless of their origin, birds arriving on the islands adapted quickly. Most notably, they underwent gigantism. Many species evolved into flightless birds, such as the famous ostrich in Africa and the kiwi in New Zealand. On the Galapagos Islands, we can find the famous Galapagos hawk. Its ancestors were white-throated thrushes that evolved from ancestral thrushes that flew to the islands and found a niche market. They had no predators to fear and plenty of food available. Consequently, they grew in size, developing robust bodies and impressive wingspans of up to 1.6 meters. So you might ask, what's the biggest animal on Earth? You probably expect me to say the blue whale, but it's not that simple. Among land animals, the heaviest is the African bush elephant, reaching up to 6 tons. But if we include marine creatures, things change. Blue whales can weigh up to 190 tons and grow 30 meters long. And yet on the remote and enigmatic Heard Island, a place shrouded in mystery, we find a dwarf species of the marine mammal known as the southern elephant seal. Males typically reach 2 meters in length and weigh up to 2,000 kilograms. In contrast, female southern elephant seals measure about 1.8 meters in length and weigh 800 kilograms. If you enjoyed this journey through the world of evolution, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Also, share your thoughts in the comments section below. Which fascinating island animal has captured your interest the most? Or perhaps you have a particular theory about the island rule that you'd like to share. I eagerly anticipate reading your comments. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey through the wonders of the natural world. Till next time, stay curious and keep exploring.